What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of our /Entitled People. Hope you're all doing awesome today, and it's time for more Reddit stories, so let's get right into it. Lady, just use a map. I work in a specialty store. This particular story happened a while ago, so I can't remember all the details. I was behind the register and I noticed one of the assistant store managers has been on the phone for a very long time. Now the phones are behind the registers, and there are two ways to get behind the counter and to the registers and phones. Because this was a busy day, all registers are being manned. Sometimes during a lull in the crowd, us cashiers will leave the counter to stock, fill, talk to customers, etc. When I see the line is getting long, I start heading back to the registers. However, the assistant store manager is still on the phone with the customer, and is looking pretty irritated at this point. Unfortunately for me, she is still in my path, and the other way behind the counters is blocked by customers and other cashiers. Instead of asking her to move, I decide to duck underneath her, which ended up with me losing my footing and hitting the counter, but that's a different story. When she finally gets off the phone, she sighs and gives me a very exasperated look. She explains that a customer was trying to get to our store to do an exchange or something, but she didn't know where we were. Instead of going onto Google Maps, she decided to ask the manager for directions and wasn't understanding the directions. Later the phone rings, and I was the unfortunate person to answer. It was the same lady. The conversation goes something like this. "Thank you for calling store at shopping center. How may I help you?" "I'm trying to get to the store. Can you tell me where you are?" "We are in shopping center between store 1 and store 2. "No, can you tell me how to get there?" "I'm sorry, ma'am, I don't understand." "I'm on highway, heading south towards major city. What exit do I take? And what roads should I take?" At this point, I see why the assistant store manager was so peeved. I'm thinking, oh no, this is going to be such a pain. And I say, "So you exit on highway exit onto frontage road. Turn left onto road. Follow road for distance. Turn right into the shopping center, turn left. And the store will be on your left between store 1 and store 2. I didn't get that. What exit should I take? For the next 15 or so minutes, I was repeatedly telling the lady instructions on how to get to our store, and she was not getting it. I had customers to check out and other things to do, but I was stuck on the phone with this woman because everyone was busy, and no one would be able to answer the phone. I was so close to telling the lady to just use Google Maps or something, and hanging up on her because holy frick, this was so annoying. I can't remember how the call ended, but I told the manager about the woman who called and she laughed in sympathy. I went off on my break not long after and the lady managed to get to the store. I didn't get to see her, but I was told that she was an older lady, but not too old to not know how to use a phone. Sometime after I came back from my break, the woman calls again, and again I was the unfortunate soul who had to answer the call. I can't remember what happened, but apparently there was something wrong with the exchange, and she wanted to know what she could do about it. Again, I was stuck on the phone for a long time. When she finally hung up, I regretted taking my break, because I was so irritated and I needed time to cool off. Make my life difficult for nearly a decade? I'll make you look like an idiot. When I first left home to go to university, my parents co-signed a mortgage for me on an apartment-style condominium in a small Canadian city. This was 20 years ago, so it came in at a whopping $52,000. They thought that this was a much better and economical choice than trying to find an apartment and deal with landlords. I loved the idea and moved into my new home. The building was almost entirely populated by the 65-plus crowd. It was small and only had 24 units split into 2 halves. I had a basement condo. It was a nice place, nothing fancy but amazing for a student. I was young, 19, but I was quiet, kept to myself, and didn't do the whole party thing. I got along with most of my neighbors. I'd help them out moving heavy things or carrying groceries upstairs. I was acutely aware of the age gap and the general image of a university student, so I made sure to be just an all-around great guy to avoid conflict. The one person I could never see eye to eye with was my upstairs neighbor. For a 70-year-old woman that couldn't have weighed more than 100 pounds, she walked like a damn elephant. She'd have gospel music on her TV at max volume at 5 a.m. on Sundays. She'd make remarks about that damn kid whenever something was left out of place. She even went so far as to accuse me of breaking into her car and making a police statement saying she saw me do it. Unfortunately for her, I was out of the country on an internship at the time. But still, she persisted, being a pain in my ass. I tried to approach her about the TV issue, and her response was to make sure that it was no longer just Sunday. After a couple of years of attempted diplomacy, it was clear that nothing I did would make things better. Others in the building probably knew she had it out for me. But why would this adorable little old lady try to lie and get me thrown out of the building by the condo board? She tried at least 11 times while I lived there. 7 years into my time living there, I was at my job with an ambulance service just north of the city. I got called to a shooting. Guy shot his neighbor in a land dispute. The neighbor survived, but there was of course going to be a police investigation. The investigating officers called me to get a statement and offered to just come over to do it rather than have me travel. One of them was a constable I'd worked with quite a bit, so I said sure. We set a time for about an hour after I'd get home from work. I was just getting out of the shower when they buzzed me to get into the building. I said, "Come in, I'll be out in a second." I hit the door buzzer and quickly grabbed some pants and a shirt. I heard them come in and then walk upstairs. As I'm trying to throw on clothes, I hear them knock on my upstairs neighbor's door. They introduced themselves as being from RCMP Major Crimes Division, and that they were looking for me. Balls. She says, "Oh, he lives downstairs. What do you want with him?" They thanked her and informed her that they couldn't say, as it was an active investigation. My heart sank, but then I had a thought. It only took about 15 minutes to do my statement and they went on their way. And then the fun began. I knew the rumor mill would be starting. She would tell everyone that would listen that Major Crimes was looking for me, and that I must be some sort of criminal. I decided to see where this went. Pretty soon I'm getting side-eye in the hallway. Neighbors are steering clear of me, so I know she's been talking. Turns out I've been arrested for robbery and kidnapping, and must be out on bail according to her. I found this out when one of my neighbors who was on the condo board showed up with a letter, demanding an explanation and threats to have me kicked out. I asked him what this was all about, and he said, "Well, Linda sent us a letter about what had happened, and we had to have an emergency board meeting because people don't feel safe with you here." I said that per the bylaws of the condo board, before any action could be taken, I could request a meeting to review and provide a defense. Linda was on the board, so I knew she'd be there. They set a date for a week from then, but I was given a caution that it didn't look good for me and that I would have to do a lot of explaining. The meeting day comes. Linda is sitting smugly, looking at me. The other board members are giving me dirty looks. The board president asks what I have to say in my defense. I stand and quietly distribute a letter on RCMP letterhead, signed by the regional superintendent that says, "Mr. OP is not under suspicion of any crimes, past or current, and has not been arrested, detained, or questioned as a suspect in any criminal matter. His duties as a paramedic will often require him to make statements in regards to ongoing investigations. And in this instance, on such and such date, investigators had gone to obtain a statement about an ongoing investigation for which he was professionally involved. At no time did the members discuss, disclose, or in any way indicate that he had any involvement in any wrongdoings. I am deeply saddened by the necessity of this letter, and we will be reopening an investigation into a previous incident regarding false statements made against him." You could tell when people read and understood it. The dirty looks shifted from me to Linda. She exclaimed that it must be a forgery. She witnessed me being led off in handcuffs. She pleaded that they should believe her. It didn't help her. I stood and addressed the board and outlined the years of abuse and harassment, including the false accusation of break and enter to a vehicle. I informed the board that on advice of my lawyer, that I do not discuss the matter further with any member of the board, as Linda, being part of it and using her position for the purpose of harassment, opened the board as a whole to litigation, and I was still weighing my options. The next day I had a knock on my door. The board president had informed me that Linda was removed from the board, and that she was given warning about her conduct, and that any further harassment could result in proceedings to have her removed from the building. She also had a visit from police with a summons for providing a false statement and obstructing a peace officer. She had to attend court. She pled guilty to both and was given a suspended sentence, and 1-year condition not to harass, threaten, or intentionally inconvenience me in any way. If she abided her conditions, she would receive an absolute discharge, meaning it would be removed from her record like it never happened. I moved to another province before her year was up. But for a brief period of time, I actually got to sleep in on Sunday mornings. This is so good, man. She got exactly what she deserved. And it's not even that her suspicions were necessarily a bad thing in the first place. If a major crimes division showed up at your door wanting to speak with your neighbor about an ongoing investigation, I think most people would be reasonably suspicious about what's going on. But it's the fact that she took that and ran with it and started making up extra stuff that never even happened, like apparently seeing OP get arrested and whatnot. I mean, if you're so sure about someone's guilt in a situation, why would you need to make stuff up like that? Entitled mom doesn't know how triage works. I work at a pediatric emergency room. I encounter lots of entitled parents, but this mom from last night almost made me lose my crap. She had taken her son in because he had an unusual rash on his arm. She was very distressed that entire night, and often came up to me to ask how long they would have to keep waiting. I said there weren't enough rooms for everyone to be seen quickly and apologized for the long wait. Maybe 2 hours after they had come, a teenage girl had been taken in by her father. He had to carry her because she was losing consciousness, felt extremely cold, and was delirious. Obviously, she had to be seen immediately, because we suspected she was septic. Patient quickly got moved to the PICU, and a wait time for this patient would likely mean death. The mom accused me of lying that there weren't enough rooms, because this girl had gotten a room instantly. I wish people understood that we need to prioritize who gets seen first. For someone to think that a rash is more urgent than a girl that's obviously losing consciousness is honestly beyond entitled. You would think that a situation like that should be beyond obvious that an emergency room is not first come first serve, but apparently some people just don't understand that. That is all for today, guys. Thank you for watching, I appreciate it. Like and subscribe for more, and I'll see you next time.